Hey everybody, welcome to the next lesson. This is part 4 of lesson 3. We're going to be talking about intervals. The reason this is part 4, and I'm calling it that, is that intervals are incredibly important for sight reading. They are incredibly important for learning to read the notes on the page. So as well as learning the actual notes in treble and bass clef, we're going to look at how intervals work. So you can see on the screen there, it says intervals in sheet music. We're going to scoot over to just these two right here. We're going to focus in on this. This is the beginner stuff. So we're just going to focus in on 2 of the intervals, the seconds and the thirds. We're also going to give these another name. As well as calling it a second, we're going to call it a step. And then as well as calling this third, we're going to call this a skip. And you'll understand in just a little bit why they're called that. So a step on your keyboard, if we just look down on the piano here. If I start with middle C, if I want to go a step up or down from a C, I'm just going to go to the next white note. Or down. So these are called steps. Now why do we call it a second? We're going from one note to the next. We're actually counting all the notes. When we count and measure distance in music, we're going to count all the notes that are being used. So if I count from here to here, we count 1, 2. If I go to the next note, this is a skip or a third. You can see why it's called a skip. We are skipping a white note here. It's called a third because it's 1, 2, 3. Now, how is this going to help me reading music? Look at the first note here. We all know this is middle C by now. If I'm going to go from this C up to this note here, let's say that you don't know what that note is, and for some reason or another, but you know where middle C is, and you want to go up to that note, we're going to view this in distance. Now, I don't mean distance like how far it is from left to right here. We're going to view it distance from up and down. So let's pretend they're right on top of each other. And luckily, I have that set up for us right now. Let's look at these. These are the same 2 notes. See how we're just going right up to the next possible nearest note. So we're going up a second or a step. If I have a third, I go from the same note here, this C, I go up to the next line. So a line to a line is a third. A line to the next space or space to the next line is going to be a second. So if I'm playing a melodic passage, a tune, and I see that C, I know my next note is just the next possible white note up. Let's move this. Show a little more reason why you need to know this. That first note there, it's G. Then we're going to go up a step to the next note from the line to the space. Let's go over here. Thirds. Still on the C. Notice that it is skipping to that line, so we're going to skip a note. This can also happen on spaces. Let's take this one, for example. I'm going to move down. You also want to look at the direction of the notes. If the notes are going down, you're going to move down or to the left. If the notes are going up, you're going to move up or to the right. So here's F. Remember face, F-A-C-E. It's the first space on the bottom, so it's F. We're off this F. And then the next note, it's going down to the next space. So we're going to skip this note here because we're skipping that line. Go down to this D. All right, now let's take a look at some actual music and see what's going on here. This is how you're going to be able to utilize reading intervals. So I've picked Ode to Joy. I made a very simple arrangement of this for everyone. We're starting on E. This is the first line of the treble clef. So it's E, every. Now, instead of doing this from here on out, instead of reading finger numbers, which is one way to do it, instead of just reading it by all of the notes, we're going to read it by direction and distance. These first two notes are a repeated note. Then we're moving up a step, then up a step. So let's try those first four notes. Remember, we start on E. We have a finger number saying third finger, so make sure to use your third finger. E, E, up a step, up a step. How about we keep going? Let's go to this next one. It repeats that 5. Down a step, down a step, down, down. To the C here. Let's try this line. C, repeat, up a step, up a step. See how easy this is? Repeating that E again. E, down a step, repeat. Now you can do the same thing with your left hand. This doesn't require even thinking finger numbers after the first one. Let's just do this entire line in the bass clef. E, repeat, up a step, repeat, down, 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 repeat, up, repeat, down, repeat. So notice we are just following by steps. Now this piece is just going to be using steps. This is a good first kind of piece to use for learning to read the distance and direction, and at the very least the direction, whether you're playing the same note, you're stepping up, or you're stepping down. I'm going to put this piece on my website. I'll give everybody the chance to download it. Don't worry, this is public domain. I am not copywriting this, and this piece is definitely old enough to be public domain, so you won't see me putting a whole lot of music up that is under copyright. I think it is best for us to all do things the right way and use music that is available to us. So again, if you have questions, please put them down in the comments box. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. I'll see you in the next lesson on finally lesson 4. We're going to be talking about rhythm.